don't feel guilty. I just want to hear his question.
Thanks. I'll try to be quick. I run an incubator partner with 2 federal labs in Livermore, California. So my frame of reference is the Silicon Valley investment community. And we're having a hell of a time getting investors to look at what are relatively immature technologies, but very high impact potentially. So can you give me any advice on how to approach the investment community to get them invested in what we're doing from a network perspective?
Yeah. Gee, I thought there was so many investors in Silicon Valley that everybody was just getting everything funded all the time. How interesting. Right? Go back to the comment about capital, right? I mean, it's a continuous struggle. I think that you should proactively decide to go after a small number of firms rather than reactively try to attract everyone. So you figure out the couple of really interesting technologies that you're trying to commercialize. Not all, pick a batch, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Understand which investors have historically invested in that domain and are comfortable doing stage, and then lay siege to them. Don't make them come to Livermore Labs. Which city is your lab in? Because Livermore's in multiple cities, right? I mean, there's Livermore, but...
Sandy is in multiple cities. We have Livermore Lab and Sandy Lab in Livermore.
Okay, so you're in Livermore. So instead of making them come to Livermore, pick the couple and go to them the first couple of times. And if they don't have time for you, but they're the ones you want to build a relationship with, be a good salesman and sit in their lobby. Like, do the metaphorical equivalent of getting them to spend time with you. Figure out how to do that. What you really want is you want a feedback loop of success that then causes everybody else to realize, oh shit, there's something in Livermore that we're missing. And that will start to create the pull, but you have to go get the first couple. By the way, it's very similar advice to most startups, right? You're a startup. It's nice to think you can put up a web page and people will start coming to you. It's nice to think that you can say, hey, my thing is good, and you can get some PR or whatever. But if you really want people to react to you, you've got to hunt them down one by one. And I feel like especially in the trying to get VCs to do something, it's easy to talk about VCs generically, but I like to think of venture capitalists as Dungeons and Dragons characters, for those of you old enough to remember D&D. There's some that are wizards, but there's a lot that are orcs, and there's plenty that are trolls, and there's some dwarves, and every now and then you'll run into an elf. And venture capital firms are not one of these. They're usually collections of a couple of these different D&D characters. So your trick is to go try to find the one you want, not the firm, but the person that is actually going to engage with what you're doing. Once you get that cycle going, then it's a lot easier to have them come to you. Hope that's helpful. Thanks. Again, you got my email. Appreciate it. Have an awesome rest of the time.
We should have scheduled 2 hours for this. Hate to call an end to it. Thank you so much, Brad. Please bear with us while we set up for Matt Ringer and his panel session, and we'll get right into that. And then the break is after that panel session. So Matt, if you'll come on up.
Hello? Oh, jeez. Sorry about that. I'll give everyone time to kind of sit down and relax, calm down. So my name is Matt Ringer. I work at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory here in Colorado. I manage a lot of our commercialization programs around activities from EERE. I've also done some activities around tech transfer for our office here at NREL. And I know that there's many people out here who I've seen before, and so hi to those of you again. And some of you who I haven't met, I hope you'll enjoy what we've put together today for you. The panel that we have is full of some really experienced and hopefully very beneficial speakers for all of you today. We want to talk about technology transfer, and we want to talk about Colorado, and we want to talk about the economic development. To that end, we have 4 people up here today. Rob Ritz from Innosphere, which is one of our local incubators. Works a lot with take care of that. Thank you. Works a lot with folks out of Colorado State, but is also co-located with us at NREL. in kind of a unique arrangement that we have for them. We have Becca Montgomery from Senator Michael Bennett's office, and she's here to talk a little bit about the state, but also about some of the exciting things and some of the discussions that the senator has had and has led around technology transfer. And then we have two people who are involved in the startup community here in Colorado. First, we have Dr. Amy Prieto. She is CEO and founder of Prieto Battery, and also an assistant professor up at Colorado State. And then we have Dr. Larry Gold, who is a founder and now chairman of SomaLogics, has an extensive background in startups, primarily in the medical area. I don't want to say devices, because we talked about one of the things that he's working on now. I guess I would call it a device, but maybe I'm not, because I'm not a medical guy. I'm not 100% sure. So here's the format for today. I want each of the speakers to be able to give an introduction to what they do, why they're here in Colorado, and a little bit about tech transfer as they see it. And then after that, we're going to open it up for questions. I have questions that I've prepared. They're readily stored on my iPhone, so I'll be able to walk around and ask the panelists. But I want to make sure that everybody here has a chance to ask our panelists as well. So after the introduction, I'll start with some questions, and then we'll kind of move from there and see where it goes. So I hope this is enjoyable and educational for everybody here. And so first, I'll ask Dr. Larry Gold from SomaLogics to give an introduction.
I love going first. That's great. Thank you. So I'm a professor at CU in Boulder. This is about the history. I came here in 1970, never left, never got offered a job, actually, anywhere else, so I didn't have any chance to leave. Along the way, I started with Friends, a biotech company, in 1981. Another in 1992, and another in 2000. The first one was to make enough money to send my kids to college. The second was because we actually had an idea we cared about. And this third one is about transforming the planet. So the fourth one will be about something else. I don't know what it will be about. I've been, I guess by your terms, prolific in writing patents. I think I'm on 400 US patents or some number like that, 300 or 400. Actually, all things that I actually contributed a little to, anyway, in some cases, a little to, in some cases more. We have a company with 140 people that's aimed to be a diagnostics company. If we are successful, someone will try to buy us and move us to New Jersey. We're not going. We're not for sale. We tell people in our place, time to work on your resume and sell your house and get ready to move to exit 12. People get nervous when you say things like that. I've worked with tech transfer groups at 50 universities, and I've worked with a group in Boulder, and I've talked to the people at Anschutz a lot, always in medical and biology stuff. So I have some thoughts about tech transfer that might be useful. I don't know. Anyway, it's nice to be here. Thank you, Matt.
Next, Dr. Amy Prieto from Prieto Battery.
Thanks, Matt. So I'm a chemistry professor at Colorado State University, and I've been there almost 10 years. I came to Colorado just because of sheer luck, actually. My husband is also a chemist, and when we were applying for faculty positions, we didn't tell anybody that we were married, and our hope was that, if we got to the top of interview lists at universities, they might be more willing to think about hiring two people in the same general area. CSU was unique in that they found out we were married, and they moved very quickly to give us two offers. And so although our dream was really just to get to be able to do good science and also get to live in the same place, we never imagined being able to come somewhere that we'd actually want to live. And so Colorado was a pretty exciting opportunity. It turned out to be perfect for me because my interests are in renewable energy, and this is a phenomenal state to do that kind of work in. My academic research group works on basically making solar cell materials out of earth-abundant elements, making new pretty amazing batteries using also non-toxic chemistry. And then we also work a little bit on hydrogen storage. And so the National Lab System has been absolutely key for me in terms of collaborations. The National Renewable Energy Lab has one of the best battery testing facilities and one of the best battery modeling facilities in the nation, and also obviously very famous for solar cells. So in terms of my academic research, this has been a pretty incredible place. In about 2008, I was approached by some of the business people at CSU to think about taking my battery technology and using it to start a company. CSU was trying to put a new model into place to help faculty really capitalize on intellectual property, to try to either license it or start startup companies that could really move a lot of the ideas from the academic lab into the marketplace. And so they decided to focus on 3 areas of strength for CSU. Infectious disease, cancer, and clean energy. And so my company was the first to come out of the clean energy cluster. We got a lot of support from our tech transfer office, a lot of support from my home department in terms of helping me get the technology off the ground. We are now a completely separate company. We are located in the Research Innovation Center, which is an incubator space built by actually the CSU undergrads who wanted to build an environment for startup companies to get off the ground, to create jobs locally. And so it's been a pretty incredible facility for my company. It's a small startup. We now have 9 employees. We have prototypes that have been tested by third parties, and we're just trying to move into commercialization in the next year to 2. So we've also been getting a lot of help from Innosphere, and Rob, just big thanks for that. So Colorado's been a great place for me as a professor, but also as an entrepreneur. It's a really, really talented workforce to draw from, particularly in terms of technical people. And I think the quality of life here is a pretty incredible recruiting tool. So I have a lot of thoughts of what I can talk about in terms of tech transfer, but also the unique environment here in Colorado for that.
Thanks a lot, Amy. I really appreciate that. Now I'll have Becca Montgomery from Senator Bennett's office.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Becca Montgomery. I'm Senator Bennett's State Policy Director. I'm really looking forward, actually, to hearing what the other panelists have to say, too. Matt asked me to give you a report on Colorado's economy. I'm not an expert on the economy, but I did look up some statistics that I think go to the point of this whole day today. On average, in Colorado, we had 20 new bioscience companies per year between 2008 and 2013. The growth of the bioscience industry alone was 8.9%. As far as aerospace and employment growth in the last decade, it's been a 17% growth in Colorado. The clean tech industry has grown 22% since 2009 and added 1,000 jobs in 2014 alone. So from a policy perspective, when you're talking about what can we do to create jobs, build a strong economy, fostering innovation and fostering the transfer of technology from our federal labs to the broader business sector is important to Michael, and it should be important for everyone. The federal government invested $145 billion in federal labs last year. Not all of that investment is going to obviously lead to commercialized technology or jobs or new businesses, but if we're not exhausting the potential that we have in that investment, then we're not doing our jobs properly. And so as an office, we've been looking for a few years now on how do we help facilitate the transfer of technology from a federal policy level. And what we've found, and this is all learned from businesses and technology transfer offices and talking to others who are experts in the field, is that there's often a disconnect between the work that's done in the lab. You know, a scientist is just exploring the question that he or she is trying to answer, but not necessarily with an eye towards the application of the technology in the real world. And the businesses and others on the outside that know how to commercialize the technology, know how to build a business, they don't necessarily know what's being worked on within the federal labs. So how do we streamline that disconnect? What we've heard is that there needs to be more opportunity for interaction, personal interaction between those in the labs and those outside and those interested, and that also we need a better way to translate the work that's going on from inside the labs to the outside, so that people who aren't experts in the technology or the research can understand what's going on and then use their own minds to think about the potential commercial application. The last thing that we've heard is that there is a funding gap between the initial research and the initial development of the technology and the place where a business might want to take it and use it and develop it into a product. And so we've been trying to find ways to help close that gap, unsuccessfully so far. But I think that opportunities like this, where you have people from labs and you have business leaders from the state coming together and having these conversations about what we can do better, is a good start. And so I'm just looking forward to hearing from the rest of the panel and your questions.
Thanks a lot, Becca. And finally on the panel, we have Rob Ritz from Innosphere.
Thank you for having us. My background isn't as illustrious as others up here. I came to Colorado initially to specialize in the repair of ski bases and edges in a mountain town for many years, and then I decided to come down to the Front Range and get a, quote, real job, unquote, at that time, and I found myself as the third choice for an entry-level job at a company in Boulder and Longmont, and a few years later we had invented a whole new way to route 911 calls and transfer the voice and data. So we invented systems to find cell phones, route calls, and do that rapidly for about 200 million subscribers in the United States, and we exited that. And twice, there were two exits, actually an IPO and then an acquisition. And then I worked with Matt at the National Renewable Energy Lab and the Technology Transfer Office there for almost 5 years, mostly focused on programs to help small businesses and startups access the resources of the laboratory. Just after that, I left NREL and walked down the hall to the incubator at NREL, and then worked there with numerous companies commercializing NREL technology, and then worked to merge that incubator into the Innosphere that Amy mentioned. And the Innosphere is a 501c3 nonprofit incubator headquartered in Fort Collins, Colorado. We were founded about 15 years ago by CSU and the city of Fort Collins. And we focus on helping early stage companies grow in Colorado, primarily in clean tech, so energy, water, and transportation, a medical device, digital health, electronics, and material science, and some software where it is a complex software or a market that is difficult to enter. We have a 30,000 square foot facility in Fort Collins with lab space and office space. We also have an office or an incubator facility right around the corner on the Energy Institute, or in the powerhouse campus of CSU, which is about 100,000 square foot test facility. It's a great place to go, and it's also right by the New Belgium Brewery as well, which makes it another bonus. Last year, our startup companies raised about $22 million and created several hundred jobs in the state. The year before, they raised about $35 million and again created several hundred jobs. There's no real logic to the amount of money going up and down that the companies raise. What we see is consistencies in the type of money they raise. And it generally is about 30% angel investor, so high net worth individuals who invest equity directly in the company. About another third are grants, for example, from the DOE or the National Science Foundation. And then about 20% of the capital the companies raise is actually revenue derived and often loans and debt. And to that point, we have several seed funds that we've created for our companies to help deal with capital gaps that are somewhat unique to Colorado, but also unique to the startup situation or the scenario that they're in. And the one that is the most successful for us actually is an early stage loan debt pool where we lend to our companies when they have their first sales, because that's a difficult point in time to actually obtain capital when you're a small business and you do not have an operating history that maps to the risk profile of a bank. So in summary, for Innosphere, the value proposition of our incubator is not a desk. You can get a desk anywhere. You can get a desk anywhere where there's good coffee, and probably a lot of advisors, retired serial entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs to hang out with and talk about how hard it is to raise money with, because it is hard. What we focus on is bringing a network to our companies that is at a scale that they currently do not have. And we focus the network and the resources of our staff on customer discovery, who's going to buy it, why, and at how much, and it's usually not what our entrepreneurs thought. So working a lot on that discovery and product market fit. Testing, which is certainly where a lot of our local laboratories come into play. Demonstration, and getting a unit in the field in a commercial-like environment, ideally so we can loan or generate a loan for that. Development of channel partnerships, because particularly in energy, where I spend a lot of time, most of our companies, or all of our companies, do not go to market by themselves. And significant amount of time helping our companies raise money of various different types. And those companies are primarily spin-outs from Colorado State, University of Colorado, one from NCAR, National Center for Atmospheric Research, and several from NREL, and then also from the garage. They do come out of non-laboratory environments as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate your